All right, short intro. This is World Blockchain Roundtable, episode 172. The theme this week is blockchains used to store history and historical events. Hosts for today, I am for I am, I'm for I'm, Lisa from the Mighty Lair, and from the Litecoin world, Greg from Rivet, I am Joe from Dragon Chain, Dragon Joe, and or Joe Dragon, I guess. Sean is supposed to be here. I believe he'll be here. I think he probably expected a longer intro, right?
Yeah.
So he would have shown
Cue
up.
in 5 seconds. 5.
Yes. Wait, I don't think so. Yeah,
That'd be cool
he's
to
not
have
that predictable.
Whoops. And John
Anyway.
is lost in the tunnels of New York.
Yes, lost in the tunnels of New York.
Bounty for him next.
Oh, look at this.
I'm putting him on.
I was so close to making that work.
You were right close. Yep, that would have been worthy of a reel at the end of the year or something, but didn't happen. It's all right.
Yep.
Let's see here. Quick update on lot distribution last week.
It did happen.
Yes, we could edit it, right? If it wasn't live. World Blockchain Roundtable.
We're live. Okay, I thought I everyone was talking. Okay,
we're not dead yet. Anyway.
Yeah, we went and we knew you'd show up if we started. So
yeah.
Essentially, this show is the first ever DAO-based podcast, and if you participate by getting a question on air or by being on the panel, and by the way, anybody's welcome to join if they want to, they will get NFTs for governance. So essentially, last week, every host, every one of the panelists will receive 222 lot. Every topic contributor from last week, 111 lot. Last week's theme was freestyle. No lot was given to anyone. That was just a natural occurrence, an act of God that there's a fifth week and it didn't get selected, right? Ownership tokens come
5
with
month Thursday, or 5 Thursday months rather, 5 month Thursdays.
Yes,
sometimes that happens. But,
yeah, that's
I don't think that quote was by. Who was that quote by? I think it was actually Stalin.
I don't know. All I know is month of Sundays, right? Would be the if it was a Sunday show. All right. Anyway,
wait, we didn't get lot for participating last week.
No, we did.
Oh, okay.
Just usually a portion goes to whoever nominated.
Oh, because it's freestyle, there wasn't someone.
Right. No nominee. No nominator, hence no nominator reward.
because William didn't get to propose. He should have proposed freestyle. And then it would have happened. No, anyway.
Yeah.
I think I did actually. I did put that in a proposal.
It's not official. It was not voted on.
We should really start billing him as the executive producer.
Yeah. Well, I'm lot poor because I sold all my lot for my new phone.
Oh, really?
What?
Cool phone.
Oh, I hope not, man. We need to look at the numbers. Anyway, governance posts though is the most important thing you can get with those NFTs. And I'm hoping we get somebody to come in and really change stuff up. Say, propose that nobody can be on more like maybe you have to skip an episode, or I kind of hate to do that, right? But or that maybe you can't be on more than 4 weeks in a row or something like that, right? I don't know. Or we kick somebody off, or we say, hey, maybe we can, do you remember the show In Search Of?
Yes,
maybe we could have
Leonard Nimoy.
Yes, with Leonard Nimoy. That I used to watch that as a kid. That was a great show. That and the Arthur C. Clarke. What was Arthur C. Clarke's show called? It was very similar.
It was very similar.
Mysterious World stuff. It was really cool.
Yeah, I was a Mr. Wizard kid myself.
Oh, me too. Mr. Wizard was amazing. And as was Beekman's World. Beekman's World ruled. And Disney decided they wanted to copy that because it was successful. And so they created for the entertainer, what's his name? Bill Nye.
Right.
Totally fake thing from Disney because they wanted to compete against the great Beakman's World. Beakman's World was funny.
Was the first like kids show that had elements of Anarchist Cookbook baked into it.
Oh,
mm-hmm.
Arthur C. Clarke's Mysterious World TV series.
How did I get that right?
1980,
dude.
Total guess. Anyway,
well done.
And the other one that you should watch that is really old but probably worth watching is Burke Connections. If you can find that anywhere, it is brilliant. It goes through science and history. Amazing, really good stuff. But
his shows suck today by comparison. Jesus.
Yes, they do.
What the hell happened?
But what I was getting to is, speaking of In Search of, what used to be the Bermuda Triangle, I think we need to move that. I think it's from happenstance. Maybe it's the pole shift, something else, that it is now in Brooklyn in those tunnels, and maybe and there, to loop back to the whole reason I started talking about this. Maybe we should vote someone else in as MC, or maybe we should just retire the MC title since John has been lost to all mankind.
We could leave him there as a sort of like when you watch The Lord of the Rings, the third one, and you see Denethor sitting there in the lower down chair, and then there's the one with stairs. Nobody sits in it.
Really?
Symbolic setting.
Wow.
There's an empty seat for the king that's higher than the current ruler. We should just leave it open.
Everyone Conan,
it's always John.
Remember Conan broke free, and he was running from the wolves, and he climbed up on the rocks and then fell into the cave, found the dead king. That'd be like, find John. He's sitting there holding his sword, and then he grabs his sword. And
we should start a meme coin like where's John or something. An NFT that looks like a wanted poster.
Well, if we could, in all truth, there might be something there. You think about it. This is what you would have done.
Where's John Lair?
The 80s or 90s. We make a meme coin, and we get a few people who hold those meme coins to just disappear, and then it becomes a thing. It's like, hey, if you're daring, you should hold this. But the people
disappearing meme coins are actually really hard to do in a way that that doesn't cost an insane amount of gas on every network you try it on. It's a lot easier to make more coins using coins than it is to destroy coins using coins.
Can you do something like this? Make a Where's Waldo coin where there's a tax like 1% on all transactions, but like every 10,000 transactions, that person finds Waldo and they get the balance.
That'd be awesome.
Oh, you could do that.
Yeah,
a bounty.
Yeah, that would be. If we could do that, that'd be cool.
You could even have the tax go into some kind of DeFi-enabled interest-bearing account where the pot itself is invested in.
I don't believe in usury.
Safe level of compound.
I especially don't believe in crypto usury.
Compound is under collateralized lending.
So
it's not usury.
Where is John? We need John. Maybe I'm gonna go get me some hunting dogs and my Ouija board and go find him.
Hunting dogs and a Ouija board. That's a great combination. Man,
I don't know. I don't think we should go in those tunnels. He was a pretty resilient figure, and if we go after him, we might not make it back.
I'm hoping that he appears out of the tunnels sometime in the next year or so. With he was a comedian, and he was trying to get, if I understand correctly, some writing gigs. I'm hoping he gets some huge writing gig, and he got that because he went into the tunnels. I mean, you have to sacrifice something, maybe.
Well, I mean, every good comedian starts as an underground comedian.
I think he cut his teeth right here. He cut his teeth right here on World Blockchain Roundtable.
Yes, he did. In fact, I still have. I have this one. Sorry, you couldn't even hear me talking. I had excellent commentary over the top of those, but I will say that I have always been offended or saddened that he never made one for me. I never had
saddened and offended.
Yes.
Pick one, just one.
Nope. Right on. Okay,
we're gonna have to make you one of those.
Theme of the week is blockchains used to share to store history and historical events. Who nominated this one?
Must be I am.
I am for I am.
Mhm.
It doesn't tell me in my notes. It'll tell me next week. Okay, it was I am for I am. Okay, he claims it.
I claim it.
We talked about it last
no,
week.
it's on chain. It's all good. Okay, so should we kick straight into the questions, or should we?
Is that kicking straight into the questions? We've been riffing it a while.
I do have a suggestion
from here.
I do have a suggestion. Yes. At the bottom of the list of posts is the postings from last week. I inserted their questions from Jacob Wayne and Derox.
Yes.
And maybe we should give credit where credit is due. They did post these last week, and so
is that whom credit due? I've never heard it that way, but
I never heard it that way either. But that's what the internet says. So it must
Samuel Adams.
It grammatically
Samuel Adams
take the is out. It really does.
Apparently his cloak, his jacket was so dirty and smelled so much that the other guys, when they sent him to the well, which one was it? I guess it was to wherever they went to Boston. I guess that somebody politely either got him a new jacket or had it laundered for him. Did you know that?
No, I did not.
He was busy brewing beer, right? So anyway, postings last week. So yes, so thank you. You're going to give this credit to Jacob Wayne, and we can answer this wholly within the context of the proper topic, since it was asked here now. So Jacob Wayne, one thing I always think about is how it will be known that the historical information being fed to the blockchain will be accurate. So even though it is quote on chain, it could be bogus info. How will we read this information later to preserve our history? Perhaps more correct information on chain will outweigh the misinformation being loaded. You can even call this misinformation an attack on the chain. So who wants to take that first? I have.
I got
a really good one.
Thinking about that, it's been bugging me actually.
Let's go. Start with Sean. We'll go up
because it's the same thing. I mean, if the losing side is going to tell their story and put it on chain, the winning side is going to tell their story and put it on chain. So people will have it won't be able to be changed later. Still great, but there'll still be two different sides for people to look at to make kind of the decision. But I think one of the biggest things would be. It's so simple, and I don't even think this question would have been asked 20 years ago because you would have trusted sources. You know what I mean? Where if this news agency said it, so this is trustable, we should go with this, rather than the government of whatever won, and rather than the government of whatever lost, go with this trusted party. We don't have that, so we would need some kind of reputation system, or something like that, which would make it the post more credible.
Yep. Very good. Very good. Lisa?
I think I've learned a lot from all of you and how Den.social works and some of those things, but also, they talk about peer review papers and working on in the DAO with at Very DAO, we were talking about, how do we, somebody could just offer up, oh, well, I have this idea and I want to get paid, so I'm just going to keep throwing in ideas and pat myself on the back and get all these, accolades or whatever. And so how do you stop that? Well, you have to make it where that person can't award or validate themselves. It has to come from the outside or from the community. The community has to validate. And I think you have to have that. You have to also have a point of anonymity of the person. Although reputation is important, the person giving the information has to almost be anonymous. It has to just be facts given in, because there's people that you like, and so you might tend to, oh, well, I want to agree with them just because I like them. Or you might be like, I really can't stand that person, so I'm just going to disagree with or not approve their project or not go along with their facts. So there's all of those factors in putting what we would consider a fact on the blockchain. And I don't really know all the solving. I know a lot of problems, but I don't know all the solving.
The peer review, I don't know. You guys always say, Joe, you actually are annoying me a little bit with this, because we'll say someone will say something, you'll write it down, and when no one does, like, what was that? Okay, like you're gonna go look it up. I Am For I Am talks about that interview with that guy, and I watched that interview with that guy, and it was dark. But his whole thing was, and he's a brilliant dude. I mean, how he knows the old Greek and was translating these things that have never been translated because no one spoke his language. But he said he made these papers and these theses to get peer review, and his peers were like, "Yeah, it's great. You got to take this out. So we don't like that. You take this out, we'll approve it. You take it." So peer review can also turn into the bad part of democracy, where go along with the gang or the peers. You can call them peers,
right? Well,
to get approval.
We
he took out what they wanted. He got it printed, and then he printed a book with the real stuff in it.
Yeah, Greg.
Yeah, we can solve this problem using blockchain actually rather elegantly, right? This is something I've been thinking about for the past week. So I wanted to put a lot of thought into something that I was reminded a week before we were going to do it, that we were actually doing it next week. I came on there with the calendar invite saying this same title. So I was ready to answer last week. I spent a week thinking about this and really not the whole week. I did other stuff, but blockchains move through an interesting dimension of time, right? Like you can far out in the future predict roughly when a given block number will happen. But as you get closer to it, it becomes more certain to the point where you know exactly when 10 blocks away is going to be. But and that assumes proof of work, right? Like I'm still thinking proof of work. But the point being, we capture facts and we tell stories. And facts can be false, and stories that are based on false facts are, they're invalid stories. They're lies. They're not true. But if we can capture over time just the deltas, the way the facts are described changing, then we can get a sense of what the true story is, because you can never erase the previous entry. So somebody will inevitably always be way more honest about something right after it happens, just because they remember it better, not even because they're trying to hide it or because they're taken by surprise. So that can happen, right? And then you'll see the facts start to shift as people begin to shape them with the story. And if you can access each one of the deltas from where a claim first emerged into where it is now, then you can see what's true. It's just a matter of making sure that we capture facts that aren't easy to game up front. And those can be very easy to create, right? Like if you want to make sure that you're telling a true story about how old your car is or how much you've used it, you show the odometer, right? Technically, somebody could roll it back. That's really not the case with blockchain. That's the extra truth that you get from it, I think. That's how I would answer that question.
Yeah.
Great point,
William.
Couple of quick things. I like when he said, you can even call this misinformation an attack on the chain. I thought that was pretty clever. Yeah, you could say that. And that is semi-true. However, I would think that if all the facts are gathered and posted on chain, where the information can't be deleted, destroyed, altered, changed, whatever, then later the facts can be sorted out, or I should say the postings can be sorted out to determine what is true and not true. Another reason I like Den.social. But to kind of push back just a little bit on Sean's point when he said, it used to be we would get our information from trusted sources. Now we've learned that those trusted sources, let's go way back, maybe like back in the Cronkite days,
radio, the invention of radio, almost 100 years ago now.
Breaking news, those weren't. Turns out they really weren't trusted sources, that they were mockingbirds, fed information. And that's certainly what we have today. And so capturing information on the blockchain, fact or fiction or something with an agenda, I think can be sorted out later by those that are professionals. And one last point I was going to make is is diaries. You know, I part of my teenage life, I was a Mormon, and they encouraged people to write a journal or a diary, and it was very powerful in that later down the line and years go by, you go back and you look at what you've written and you see what your struggle was at that time and what you were thinking, and you see that you were correct or you were wrong and you should have maybe acted differently or done something differently. But that going back in time to review is a very powerful tool, and it actually creates, I think, something in the brain that is kind of like an exercise, that is then fast forwarded to the present time, and it helps with your decision making. So
that's a really good point, man.
just that. Blockchain can do just that.
And it's like a foreign concept now. No one.
Well, have you ever tried to find old stuff on Google? I did it yesterday. You can't. You can go on DuckDuckGo and select a date range that's custom, but you can't get that information on Google anymore. I read a 2007 article about the FBI director Ray, back when he was deputy director of it under Bush. And reading it was just like a different universe because, I mean, especially because Republicans were Democrats and Democrats were Republicans with respect to censorship and free speech. But it was a bizarre world. And it just struck me how infrequently I view past records.
One last thing, Wayback Machine. I was on the Wayback Machine when I was looking up eGold. And I was thinking, oh, this needs to be on chain. It's going to get lost forever. You know.
I remember the journal thing. It was a third or fourth grade. It was a requirement of us to have a journal, and it was. And I remember thinking, it was like just like part of life. It was part of like school, but I thought it was dumb. You know, because I know what I did, but I would love to have that now, and just be able to look. I don't remember. Like I remember my teacher's name, and like 2 kids' names in the class, maybe, and
Really?
that's it. You know, there's so much that is just. I guess it's in there, but it's not accessible. And if we had that, it would be a better connection, like with ourselves. And just our own, like we'd know ourselves better, which is something everyone strives for. And I feel like, you know, I was a very different person just 10 years ago, 20 years ago, especially. And I don't know, it's weird. I think the journal thing is really a great idea.
Well, related to the bogus info, I think what Sean said at the beginning. Totally agree with that. You get both sides, and in fact, maybe all sides, because there likely is more than 2 sides. And if they are there with the proof that this is an unmodified version of someone's thoughts at the time, it's very powerful because people can look at it with new information later, and they don't have to struggle with what we do now, where so much has been, so many lies have been pushed for so long that it's really hard to break through, and find out what really happened. You imagine if the most meticulous things were stored, and how do you combat? So one thing is store it all, right? Another is get some type of consensus, which can be updated over time, so that at least you get a feel for what other people have looked at.
You can kind of do all of the above, can't you?
Yes. Well, and then a super important thing is prediction markets. That is, you can put if people are putting money in on it, then it's less likely to be a fixed thing. And one of the probably the most important, though, is to get all of the small info, not just here is what happened, in a summary, but instead to have all the events that caused this thing that happened to be on chain, so that you can essentially, it's very unlikely that someone would have put this record on chain, and more specifically, these million records on chain that led to this event, if that event wasn't real, right? So you kind of tie it together and have a much better idea of what really happened. And you can look, if it's very topical.
Right. Well, here's an example, man. If Shoes had a built-in odometer, you could not that recorded itself on chain. You could never lie about running a marathon.
You could put the shoes on a machine, and
I suppose you could, but I mean, like
some things.
You can still lie about it, but at the same time, like you see what I mean. Like the data sources you want to tap into are ones that are automatic and idiosyncratic to what you're doing,
and it's less likely
say and report.
Yeah, it's less likely that you're going to do that. I mean, now if running a marathon led to someone getting $1 million prize, then a bunch of people will probably fake it, right? Mm-hmm. But if it's just they ran a marathon,
well, I mean, but you could also have geolocation data say that you replaced the marathon happening. Like it would be incredibly difficult to
video
fake if you got the right
pictures. Data. Yeah, and that's the thing. The amount and the quality of evidence behind whatever it is, if that was all on chain, it would be much help. And by the way, this is very controversial, but this just came up this past week because Tucker interviewed the podcast host for MartyrMade. He created MartyrMade, the podcast. Really good podcast. I've only listened to a few episodes because I'm far more into ancient history, and this guy tends to do a lot of modern history, which leads to what this discussion was, that how much misinformation is there in our current
history is tough, man.
So there's a ton.
There's a lot.
We don't have a lot of veracity after World War II, in my opinion.
The saying that understanding is a three-edged sword. Your side, my side, and the truth. And the ancient history thing is crazy. Because my mom was a theologian, intellectual, but she was she had a doctorate in theology, and she was obsessed with the shroud. I mean, it's like a big thing.
Talked about the shroud last week. Yes,
we did. Yeah, I wasn't here, so we had this huge thing of the shroud. To me, it was like normal, and my friends were like, "What is that?" It's like the shroud of Turin. Like, you don't know what that is? And
that was weird.
But that they said it was wrong. It was from the Middle Ages, like 10, 20 years ago, and they said it was debunked, it was fake. And now they've literally, with the technology, pinpointed it to like 27 to 50 AD, which is the perfect time. So that's another thing that changes with, like you said, photographs, pictures, all that stuff, which used to be 100% proof, 100% accurate. But even then, it wasn't. You had that picture of Stalin where he got rid of one of his generals or whatever that were next to him, and that's a good looking Photoshop, and that was from way back when. So that is a hard evidence is a very tough thing.
I will tell you,
FDR and Churchill were part of the communist movement.
Yes. Yes, they were. I was
Jacobites were right, though,
right, and
not Hitler.
I gravitated towards the ancient history because it was less. It was very obvious that anything that happened in the recent past, where the people that lived through it, even if they were kids, are still alive, was almost not worth studying because there was so much BS involved. So it was all colored by politics, and it was even getting a good grade was difficult because you had to make sure that you weaved your opinions into whatever the professor might deem reasonable.
Yeah.
Whereas with ancient history, that didn't exist. It's like, oh, you could hate or love Julius Caesar, and it wasn't going to get you a bad grade, right? And it was just more interesting because all of the I hated British history because they wrote down everything, and I don't want to know everything about all this, the BS that happened behind the scenes, right? Whereas in ancient Rome, ancient Greece, it was so foreign too. It was if you read books from back then, the way that people thought, it's almost like it's like an alien civilization that they.
Well,
everything was different. It was amazing.
There was a lot of friction between you and creating lasting content, right? Like if you were born in the Roman Empire, you had some knowledge barriers to overcome. You definitely had to have a decent pair of hands. Like you certainly had to have some physical skill with a chisel. You had to have access to the right kind of stone. Like holy shit, right? Like there's so much friction compared to today, where pretty much everything can be effortlessly flooded into a recording device. You know,
I think also when you mention ancient history, there's a certain sect of history and science where they got their own thing called Egyptologists, and there's such a divide where, hey, this is how it is, this is what these things are, we're Egyptologists, we're our own scientists, and then there's people like, this is all bullshit. All you got to do is like this. I studied this in university, and when I finally came here, I was like, wait, this doesn't add up. This is wrong. The Sphinx, this isn't eroded by thousands of years of sand, and there's, and then you're just shunned. You're put out of the pier. There's
like the guy who found the pyramid in Ohio or whatever, right?
And then all the different points. There's a. But then it's so like the conspiracies are just begging, because it's like, hey, this looks like a pyramid, and it's right here at this point where there's the energy point of the Earth. And look at right here, there's grass, so we should dig here. No, we're the government. We don't want you to dig there. Why? Well, there's a bug there, or it's rare, or just no. In a lot of cases,
or you haven't got the proper permits. Please submit your first draft of your environmental protection plan, accounting for these 5,000 things. Here are 10 experts that you can hire for $200,000 an hour.
Yeah,
we'll see you next year.
Okay,
that's a solid no without having to say no, isn't it?
Okay, next question from last week from Dayrox. How do you determine what is an historical event? And how do you determine what is the truth? So let's go backwards. So start with William this time and go down.
I'm going to go with the quantity of data. The more data that's put in, and the more people that can evaluate with trying to be objective, is going to sort out the truth. Prediction market, incentivized behavior. Again, I'm going to point to Den.social's untapped resource. That is how I believe truth can be weighed. I should say data can be weighed to be fact or fiction. Data can be weighed to be what is true, what is not. And historical precedents, as well as ranking and reputation of the person who's inputting the data, can certainly sort it out what is true, what's not true. Den.social does it well. It just needs the numbers. It has a inherent prediction market. And essentially, if you plug in prediction market with blockchain, there you go. You can sort out the fact from the fiction.
Yep.
The thing I would add to that is you have to have breadth in your quantity. Like the key is to capture broadly, and capture is something that I'd like to call automaticity, not atomaticity, right? The automaticity. Like you want to capture data that comes out of processes. Like we're building a state machine essentially, right? Like the idea is capture as many states as possible, and then from there capture the deltas, the way that the states change from one state to the next. And if you can capture that broadly in ways that that are backgrounded, just like mileage on your car, you don't really decide to add certain amounts of mile to the car. You check it when you need to check it, but it's there in the background running. The same sort of thing with tire pressure monitoring, if you want to keep with the car metaphor, right? You don't let air out of the tire to get the pressure you want all the time. You occasionally add some or take some out, but but the data is there tracked as a state change from one instance to the next. And if you do that as much as you can, and you aim for breadth, so that you're capturing, like, one of my favorite quotes is, and I forget who said it, but the people arguing over gray versus black and white, and the guy who says, no, we need to have black and white if we want to have truth. The guy who's arguing for gray goes, well, but there's so many shades of gray. There's so many different things about this, blah, 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 right? It's gray, not black and white. And the guy arguing for black and white says, well, why are you trying to replace my 2-color system with 1 color, right? We don't have a very good concept of the gradient that goes into gray, that includes black at one end and white at the other.
Yeah.
And we have to capture as much as freaking possible. Yeah, Ansel Adams, that's a good quote.
Yeah.
As much as freaking possible, we have to capture widely, and I think that's really the key to finding truth.
May I add something real quick to tack on to Greg? You nailed it. In the movie The Matrix, they developed that new cinematography effect of mounting a camera that would go all the way around, and you would be able to see the action happen. And it was brilliant. And if you think of it that way, as everyone viewing a historical event and recording their point of view, and recording it, then later everyone can sort out, what is true, what isn't.
Yes,
right,
exactly. Lisa,
I think it's also what we're seeing, like with the Israeli war in Gaza. We're getting, two different opinions, because we've never really. They've been doing this a lot, fighting and debates. It's never been both sides so out there.
Oh, dead babies.
Yeah, the opinions are much different now, this time around, than they were 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
Yep.
So that's technology, I guess, joining in the fight for truth, being able to video and capture and share those points of view.
Maybe it will be that all those things were there all along, being terrible, and we just couldn't see them.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I thought so. His question was I was going to focus on the other part of his question. I'm sorry. Can you put
how to determine what's the truth?
Determining what is a historical event. A lot of times we don't know until afterwards, but I would say that has to do with the amount of data captured, or the volume of effect, or like noise that the event causes.
So you're saying, like, not just breadth, but many dimensional, right? Like, you want to capture as many dimensions as you can.
Yeah.
Yep. Cool. Something related to this that is at least interesting, and this is probably not true, but it's an interesting idea that if you imagine all of the seers that historically have been Nostradamus, whoever else, there are a bunch of other ones. Casey, there are a bunch of them, right? I have a theory that if it does exist, that they were able to tap into the minds of the future, right, to witness something, and they write it down in some freaking,
quatrain,
quatrain or something crazy, some French poem, right? That wouldn't it make sense that they the reason that they call out the volcanoes and earthquakes and the end of the fires and all this horrible stuff happening is because we now have freaking 24/7 feeds of all the shit happening in the world, right? There's death going on everywhere through how much of human history, but now's the first time we all see it all the damn time.
That's biblical, Joe. I mean, they say that, like, we'll be able to see everything when Christ comes.
But imagine if we had all of this technology, and you just, like, transported it back in time to the era of the Spanish Inquisition.
Whoa! Time out. That's one of my questions later.
So anyway, the thing is, I do think I agree.
I really wish one of us had a Monty Python clip right there when they.
I feel like we would see a lot more atrocity than we have today, and that's good.
I don't have it ready.
But we have a long way to go, and we didn't know how far until recently.
Yep. One way or another,
Just got a lot of good stuff coming up here. Just I didn't know you could the Smithsonian only allows you to dig 16 feet, but
that was I posted put it up there. That one way or another, nobody can know what the truth is because that's a very subjective thing, especially in time. What might have been the truth 100 years ago is very different today. And then in historical, but if you're talking about something actually happened, that that is, and then to judge whether something is important or not, whether it is historically significant.
That's a good that's how I was going to answer the question. That you just said something, because this is kind of a loaded question. How do you determine what a historical event is? It's anything. I would say just kind of dictionary.
In hindsight, I think it's right.
Anything that changes the status quo or something from the present is a historical event. Changes it.
See,
but now there's so much different. Now you look at the history of America, or you can go to the history of a town, and 90% of the world, 99% of the world doesn't care about this town of like 30,000 people.
Right.
But this happened. Anybody watch a Resident Alien?
No.
Oh, yes. That's the one with
Alan Tudyk.
It plays a doctor in the town.
It's amazing.
It's
but
funny.
This town, it's a tiny town in Colorado, and this kid got trapped in a mine, and then 58 miners go down to try to save the kid, and they all died. But so the motto is 58 to save one. But that's like this huge thing. It's the town's built around it. It's famous, and it's like no one knows it. But that's like a massive, big piece of history for this small dot of people on this small dot of the planet in this small dot of the universe.
So and professional historians, right? Sorry, did I interrupt your thought, Sean? Sorry.
No, it's just so we have to, like, what is history, and I think it has different levels. But the truth, it's like the quote, the truth is like a lion. You don't have to defend it. You just have to let it go. It'll defend itself.
Right.
So just put the information out there, and people know the truth.
Well, I mean, and just also bear in mind that historians professionally don't study recent history because it's in flux, right? They recognize that current events don't present the whole picture. So you have to wait until you have a whole picture captured if you really want to study history and understand it. And that oftentimes means waiting to see the outcome of events and how people react to those and how they react to those and so on, right? It's chaotic until a certain point.
Especially what you were talking about before, Greg. In my opinion, historians should be seeking to record current events in a way that they can use them later, and they're not. And we, if blockchain and crypto hadn't gone the way of tribal numbers and stuff, it would have been a pretty noble project to say, what if we found a way to incentivize both the collection and evaluation of every type of data, because it would be including, small town data, personal data, things that might matter in the future and might not, right?
I think people may wonder too, and maybe this one for you, Joe, or we can tackle from a technical side, but like, how much can you capture in the space of a block, right? And that's an interesting question, isn't it?
Well, we can capture a lot more than anybody thinks. I mean, if YouTube can, how much video is uploaded to YouTube every second?
It's crazy.
Tremendous amounts, right? And
incomprehensible amounts of hours in seconds, probably.
Yeah, that could be put on chain easily. So,
and we don't have access to the truth or to history. If literally the powers that be say, if history can affect the present, you can't learn about it. That's literally why we don't know about Kennedy. Every time it should be released, it's like, no, it'll still mess things up. Nope, it'll still, it'll still shine a light on things, and it would change our. It would change.
Plus, they have to keep us in tutelary bondage somehow.
So if people need access to, that's why I think, like you said, the camera thing was a great analogy with the Matrix. It's if everyone can put their information out there, because that there were people that knew stuff and said stuff that was covered up, like the day it happened. when he got shot. There were people right there. If they could have put it in their phone, typed out, made their TikTok, I saw that before the government got to him and said, "Hey, don't talk about this." It would be a whole different situation, But we didn't have access to him to put information out immediately, and then we only had so many sources that people could get information from. We had to wait until they curated it to hand it to us. It's like basically we're living in a garden, and we don't have to wait for someone to go get our food, and we can just go and pick something off the tree and eat it immediately.
Yeah, people are lazy. If you remember the 2020 riots, there were several of those that it was interesting because they would actually show the same event, like let's say one of the shootings or something, from multiple angles simultaneous, like they synced them all up, and that's pretty equivalent, but it's not on chain, right? And given what's going on now, it's going to need to be on. When we get to the memes portion, there are at least a few things that make it very
they're
clear.
saying that some of this Venezuela video stuff that they're showing where the gangs are coming into these apartments is stuff was in 2013.
Yeah, that happens a lot. That's so crazy. Okay, so we'll go back now. So back to the top of the list. This is Jacob Wayne with an Alex Jones related fake news story, right? Thank you for congrats on baby number 2. So Jacob Wayne had a second kid. It's all good. Congratulations again. I like the idea of putting everything on chain and figuring out later what's important from that data, like y'all discussed on the show last week. Technical question though. Here's a hypothetical. Everyone puts tons of historical data on the Polygon chain, for example. Through natural competition, Polygon eventually dies out because some other chains are considered superior. Does this data just disappear since no one's running nodes to hold that information, or can the chain still be accessed? Maybe a noob question, but something I think about. So I'll answer real quick.
What is the least noob thing? I gotta say, that's a smart question. You denigrate yourself with the word noob. You cannot be considered a noob and see something see such a clear challenge and express it so clearly. So well said.
And that is why it's important to use multiple chains. But even if one of those chains goes away, or the way it would go away is if people stopped mining, right? Which who knows if that will happen much.
And then it doesn't go away, right? It just goes inactive.
Yeah, well, and whoever had that data will still have it, and you would still have to be able to prove it from the beginning. It does create some weaknesses because it's not continually bolstered against
It just wouldn't be active, but it could be restarted or whatever.
Well, hold on now. From what
there's future dev stuff here too that's relevant.
Hold on. What I understand as a dumb guy is that it could be turned back, like Ethereum did, and whatever was there before would be wiped away.
Yeah, that's why
clients are coming.
That's why connecting chains matters so much. If you only had Ethereum and it got forked, people could say that never happened. Vitalik never bent the knee to his masters and decided we should fork Ethereum. That didn't happen. Those guys are lying. But if, however, that fork were also captured on Bitcoin and anything else at the time, then you wouldn't be able to do that, right?
So I am right, though. If a chain went inactive, it could easily be attacked, rolled back, and whatever they wanted to replace.
It's not necessarily easy. Like you would still have to go back to whatever that time was that you wanted to change the event, and you'd have to rewrite the history since that time to whatever the latest is. And if that's only a year, then that's less expensive than if it's 10 years. And if that happened 20 years ago versus today, the amount of hash power is likely going to be easier to come by than it was 20 years ago. So,
and you couldn't roll it back 20 years and then just say, and then nothing happened.
I mean, you can, but that's the whole point of I could write it in a book, so it'd be equivalent. I could put it.
You could say. I mean, you could say, and then it gets foggy or something like that.
If your goal is to destroy the proof of something happened 20 years ago, You wouldn't
There's an
necessarily have to write 20 years worth of stuff after. You just have to
interesting wrinkle here that
destroy it.
You have to kill everybody who held a copy of it, let's say.
Yes, exactly. That's where I was going to go. You'd have to destroy all the previous versions. You would have to find them, hunt them down throughout the world, and destroy them to be able so that you can say that your fork is the true Bitcoin.
Or you could just mount people with guns at towers and make sure that
but if there's no one running nodes
coming in and out of there, and
no one running nodes, and then you roll it back, you fork, and then you're running 10 nodes, there's no one else running. Like you said, it's inactive.
Yeah,
then that would become the new chain.
And that's why it's so important to get the network size and hash power and other forms of proof, because you bolster it. Skullcap.
There's a wrinkle on the horizon here. Yeah, that's a really great point. I want to bring this to everybody's attention, though. One of the plans for, like, everybody's heard the term sharding and ultra dank sharding and all this shit, like the scalability elements that they sidelined so they could, for no good reason, switch to proof of work or proof of stake and appease the WEF people.
Really? The same sentence. That was funny.
Thank you. The way that Ethereum is headed and EVM is headed, which means a lot of these chains like Polygon are going to probably just straightway adopt the approach without doing much, is stateless clients. And what that means is state will not be permanently stored. And all you'll have is sort of like an identifier linked to a roll-up that you can say probably happened as it's described because it was hashed and rolled back in to the main chain. But if you ever have anybody stop running all of the clients for a particular network, if it ever truly goes completely dead, that state will stop being persisted because the main chain and the beacon chain will no longer capture state after that point. Yeah. And that's how you get to highly scalable. But it also means there becomes a new role for people who want to archive, actively archiving content because it will be able to vanish in the way that things are headed with at least EVM related things.
Yeah. I do want to, if you're okay, before this, what Skullcap Savant brings up is change records, and essentially it's a very powerful capability because instead of just changing a record like you might in a database, with a transactional state machine of a blockchain, you can actually issue a change record, which becomes part of, the entry that was in mistake or in error or didn't have enough info is still there. So you can still inspect what was said, how it was corrected over time, and that's a positive thing. It's not an attack on the chain or anything. In fact,
like Git.
I think it was JP Morgan or it was one of the big banks had a patent that they put in around 2014, 2015, that everybody laughed at because they tried to patent the ability to actually change a record on chain. And I'm like, that doesn't even make any sense. As if you're an accountant, you would want to keep the errant record.
The lie to the cartelization that is proof of authority, doesn't it?
Yeah. So it's like, and they got a patent on that anyway. Okay. Who else wants to weigh in on?
I just want to. I just agree. I'm going to double down. It was a brilliant question, and if you think of it in terms of, let's go fast forward, into the future, and an archaeologist finds this, laptop, and it's got a connection that is restored, and maybe to Polygon or something like that. It might be able to be recreated. And because I know Jacob Wayne, think of it in terms of, someone discovers a VCR tape and a VCR, and they go, wow, if we only had the machine to create this, well, maybe an AI could recreate a VCR player to replay the VCR and gather that data. So just because the machine is dead doesn't mean that it couldn't be someday resurrected and the data contained within, even though it's encrypted.
So
maybe
you just reminded me of that South Park episode where Cartman couldn't wait for the Wii to come out, so he froze himself and ended up transported 2,000 or 10,000 years in the future. And then when he finally got his Wii from the Museum of Technology History Ruins, they couldn't plug it into a modern display.
That's the worst. Standards.
History is also kind of that which we don't lose. So it's sort of bounded by what we don't lose.
By the way, there's an entire subject around the preservation of history and the fact that if you have it in a digital storage medium, that it is not apparently, at least all of the experts think that it is not as sound or as safe as if it is written on paper, because there are too many issues and too many unknowns. In 1,000 years, will your thumb drive still hold the data that it holds now? And then different types. There's a whole range around it that if something's very important, they will archive it in multiple mediums. And
DNA is
put it in,
solution,
right?
If
they put it in an electronic medium, they have to store with that medium, with that content, they have to store the device that is with which you can read the medium. So they have to archive the device and the medium. And there's a lot of stuff around how it's archived on paper. It's super interesting.
Degradation. Yeah, paper is really good. Like VHSs was a great example. They turn to crap after not long.
Yep.
I mean, you can buy a brand new in the never opened unwrapped VHS from 30 years ago, pop it in, and it is bad. It looks like you recorded it with a handheld VHS recorder now.
Yep.
Every single play loses a little bit of fidelity, right?
Yep. This is magnetic.
It's actually kind of true of DNA too, at a much slower pace. But like DNA is really a really good storage medium for long-term capture.
True.
Because it's the only kind of self-repairing storage there is.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing too. There is. It's interesting in this subject that there have been people who have for instance, there's a theory about alien life forms, that if an alien were to communicate with the universe, the most effective way would be DNA, because it will. So theoretically, they should have a SETI search for extraterrestrial life that inspects our DNA, because it's entirely possible that they've encoded something, because it will have stayed with the DNA encoded to repeat, and it might be there. We wouldn't even know.
We were having some of this conversation. So Skullcap Savant, who's in the chat that you guys have put up some of his conversations, I had a show with him yesterday on my channel, and we were having some of this conversation talking about aliens and frequency and some of our DNA and all that stuff.
Yep.
So it's kind of funny that we're talking about that now.
Yep. The DNA, I think there's some, if there's anything, that's going to be there, and that's going to be the most efficient way for an alien life form to persist whatever data they want us to know in the future, right?
Fascinating idea.
One should have
and not look
right to exclude oneself from history, though, right? We still have to have privacy. But
yeah.
Interesting, Joe. Look within and not look above.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Next question.
When we go to current events, remind me I have an alien thing that I need to tell you all about.
Cool.
I don't think this is a question.
I don't think that's a question, is it? Nothing understanding. Do we want to answer it? Do we count this?
No,
What was okay?
Me personally, that's my opinion.
Apologies. I'm gonna tag.
Isn't this where you use downvote?
Yeah.
Downvote function.
I
just did.
I don't want to be rude. Okay. All right. I'll downvote one. I'm like, well, maybe I should. Maybe I'll bet on it. I'll downvote a bunch. I'll bet everybody downvotes it. Okay. Jacob Wayne.
I'm going to reply to a later thing though, just not in a thread.
Yeah, maybe. I know you only get credit for one question, but I just thought of another. I've never used Eternal on Dragon Chain, but I love the concept of portal to eternalize tweets, or I guess they're just posts now. And anything, by the way. In fact, the tweet side doesn't even work anymore because Elon turned on the API thing, and the API isn't even workable because we can't predict how many we would get.
Right.
So we can't even pay at the lowest
level. They had to
turn
it off. They had to turn it off unless they wanted, the Harvard Internet Observatory to capture everybody's data and use it to research how to suppress. Speech.
But they, I'm not like Mark Cuban or something, so he wouldn't just give it to us for free, right?
Can you back up and explain what internal on Dragon Chain is? Because I know there's some people out there that don't know.
Oh yeah. Here I'll show you.
It was awesome.
It's really cool. I still use it.
Essentially, what in the world?
I used it when I was on Twitter, but I haven't figured out like the easy hack on.
Oh,
keep it in a separate tab. That's the way
it
to
is
do it.
eternal.report. The old link. I was like, wait, it's not working. For some reason my browser still had the old link. So you used to be able to do a tweet. We should take that off. Haven't touched it. You can still do a web page, so you could send it to a web page and it'll archive it. You could do some text, and it is markdown friendly.
Nice.
What's the website?
Eternal.report. And essentially it puts it on chain. Hopefully, it's working. And it'll go through the whole Dragon Chain process where it goes through the 5 levels, so there's the 3. And you can go look at all the raw data for it. And in the end, so, really quickly it gets through 4th level. In the end, it will go, and I actually, darn it, I meant to have, I will show you an example of one. Let's see here. There we go, my demo tabs. Let's see here, Eternal. I think this is probably the most appropriate one, if I can find it. And sorry, I'm refreshing. I don't know if I can find it. Anyway, what it does is it gives you a dollar value in the end of how much. Okay, here we go. So this is a tweet that I think she was the campaign manager for what's her name, who was running for president in 2020.
Oh
God. She's military.
Oh, Tulsi Gabbard.
Thank you. I think this is the campaign manager. And I thought this was, funny. 99% of the trolls on Twitter are people seriously wrestling with their own insignificance, right? But one way or another, this went all the way through, and it ended up on Bitcoin, right? And you can, look at the actual block along with a bunch of other stuff. But the important part is that it would cost me $41 billion to fake this info, right? And that was only in 2020, right? So
$41 and some technical prowess that most people probably couldn't muster.
And everyone in the world would know that something happened. Everyone in the world was like, holy shit, wait a minute. That it got forked and rebuilt.
Doing it invisibly would not be possible.
At least from our understanding currently, it would be impossible right now. Who knows? But still, everyone would know it happened, and it would cost somebody a tremendous amount of money to do it. And this is only capturing the Bitcoin and Ethereum sides. So the other chains as well would add to that. But they're orders of magnitude less. So anyway, it's a free service. We want to actually build this out. We have a plan for it if ever it were to get funding, that essentially what we wanted to do, you imagine this, is to incentivize people to effectively bet with their subscription fees. So you subscribe to it, you would get extra features, you would get, you would have any limits, you could store stuff. But essentially with the money you're paying, you would be able to vote with your money on which channels are most likely to be canceled. And so it would be like a World Wildlife Federation endangered species list, but it would be for content, endangered content. Yeah. And essentially the beauty is if you put your bet on that content, let's say 4chan politically incorrect, or let's say some particular politician's Twitter feed, that if you put your money on that, you would essentially hold NFTs for ad space on that content, which is no longer available anywhere else, right? So essentially, the only place you can see this content that everyone will point to, you own ad space on it that you could sell to somebody or whatever else, right? So that's the, it's basically, how can we do what archive.org is without the risk of
rather than let them freely sponsor history in advance? by
Yes.
Pfizer, right? Like,
yes, exactly. And and what has
Pfizer can still be on history, but history can't be on Pfizer.
Exactly. And archive has been they've been attacked. They have lost or deleted information, right? So it's like people are still using it as a trusted source, but there's no proof that what you see there is true or real, I should say. It doesn't have to be true. It's just that it was really the web page or really the content. There's nothing there to prove it, and they have knowingly deleted stuff too. So you have to think about it. That's not good enough, and it also they have to beg for funding. Like Wikipedia does, right? So
it's
this
valuable.
was just
Wikipedia doesn't have to beg for funding anymore. I read a story about them that they're quite a bit dirtier than that.
Oh yeah, well, they still will beg
Media
for it.
Foundation now runs Wikipedia, and they are funded with a permanent endowment from a whole bunch of really potent.
There's a 4-letter acronym I know that deals a lot with what happens.
There's a Pirate Wire story on it. Like somebody from inside blew it open.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, we had to deal with them removing our Dragon Chains page, and we uncovered, and that's when we ended up meeting Larry Sanger later, who tells it how it is, right? That it's all fake and it's all controlled and it's
captured.
all
fun fact
nasty
that I just ran the transaction security value from 2020 through an inflation calculator, and it's currently worth over 50 in today's 50 million. Is it billion or million? 50 billion in today's
billion.
This again, for everyone watching, listening, Eternal.report. Imagine if whistleblowers uploaded their data to this thing. It's recorded onto a blockchain. Now their data can't be altered, changed, deleted. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then they go out and they do their whistleblowing and say, hey, this is the real information. Here it is. Here it's been archived on chain. It cannot be changed, altered, deleted. Here it is.
Yep.
Powerful.
By the way,
though you would need like a plausibly deniable rubber hose like front end, right, where you couldn't tell where it was coming from.
Yep.
Yes.
And Greg, start thinking about it, because that is next week's episode on World Blockchain Roundtable is blockchains for whistleblowers. So start thinking about it. You'll have a whole week to think about it. Okay. Anybody else want to weigh in on this?
A lot.
This, I guess, Eternal.report is that because you can put full documents in there. You can put full text. A lot of people do. And I don't even know. There are literally millions and millions of entries on Eternal.report. So we got a lot more when it was plugged into Twitter. Damn you, Elon Musk. But
Eternalize it was really great handle too.
That wasn't even written by us either. That was written by somebody in the community. They just wrote it and it worked. It was great. Ours was banned. You know why? Ours, I had the brilliant idea, stupid idea of having the eternal response if somebody called it. And I think it was,
oh no,
I can't remember what it's called. It would quote the original quote or the original.
You probably hit a like DDoS level.
No, it wasn't
on the way back in.
We got banned along with John McAfee when he said the N-word. So it said the N-word, the bot said the N-word, boom.
You quoted it back, right?
Yeah.
Basically, anybody who said anything at it can say one of the magic words that will make you disappear, and you got disappeared.
Yeah, it worked. John McAfee did it. But then somebody else added that, and it worked. So anyway, anybody else want to weigh in on this? But I think sorry, I went on long.
Portal or place to do historical events. That piece of it is really I think Eternalize It would have been my first example, or Eternal Reports, I guess. But there are a lot of others actually. When
Eternal. Go ahead.
When I was with a company that worked for state governments, we actually built this technology that you could version a database and still make it rapidly, like completely integrated with real-time applications. So you could query it and write to it, and it would still version every change. and it didn't slow down business enough. Like, because it takes a while to do a commit. It's not super super light like a typical database read or write. And we put a lot of engineering time into making version databases that changed every time you wrote to them. Still functional in that kind of environment, and that kind of technology is out there. Like, actually, if you guys ever want to check it out, it's called Propylon. It's weirdly spelled, but I'll put it in my footer in case anyone wants to go look at those guys. They make some cool tech.
Oh boy, the next one. I'm gonna this next one is gonna be a good one. I am for I am. How many people would have been red-pilled in the past had blockchain recorded significant events in the past? JFK's assassination, Gulf of Tonkin, WMDs in Iraq, COVID origins, masks, lockdowns, ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, 2020 elections with blockchain voting systems, Russia-Ukraine war, Gaza, genocide, and now imagine if history started being recorded on a blockchain. Imagine if people wanted blockchain truths rather than Meta, TikTok, Google, Corp, or an AI search, or if Den were the gold standard for community notes. What future events could be prevented? What wars averted? How many lives could be saved? Can you imagine this future with blockchain as the go-to for truth in history?
Right, like public entry and exit records on all stage 4 or level 4 CDC facilities globally, right? Like, imagine if you could tell who went in and out when, so you could connect, like certain typhoid Marys to certain outbreaks of dryland drowning syndrome. This would be plausible.
Yeah, I thought you were going for the all of the pedo hunter channels that have recently had somebody that ends up going back to the office at the FBI. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I was mostly thinking about the fact that
the client list.
We still haven't quite come to grips with the lab origin thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
People still say it was probably a lab leak because they know that saying it was definitely a lab leak, even though it's staring them in the fucking face. Is a call.
Why were they? I mean, even the stuff, I have screenshots of the stuff from posts from U.S. military in Eastern Europe searching for only Caucasian Russian blood for testing. Very specific stuff for labs in Eastern Europe. Why the hell are they doing that?
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I mean,
anyway,
that kind of stuff could be on a public blockchain.
Imagine the wars. Imagine the wars being averted. Imagine if there was a blockchain that recorded no WMDs in Iraq. How life would have been different. How things would have been changed.
How about every authorization to fire ever issued by any military commander?
Yes.
Is a chain, on-chain.
By the way, I think that should be sold to like the war college. They study history, and I think blockchain should be sold to them in a way that look.
And we can tell who shot first, so it was never a political game.
And they would know everything. 20 years from now about what's happening, and it would really change how things are studied. But
imagine the 2020 election, there would be no doubt as to who won. It wouldn't be questioned. It would be a trusted system.
I'm sure politicians would still question it.
The whole point of this question was to provide proof that our lives could be saved with blockchain if it was really recording history, and we could go back and look at it. We could call it for what it was, if it was propaganda or not. All of those things. It's the power of immutable blocks. It is powerful, and people have no earthly clue.
The current stuff going on
past
October 7th
from a story, essentially.
October 7th, they would be able to make the case that, we didn't know this was happening, and these people were really killed. They can't, though, because it's all there's so much fakery.
Well, we do have to be a little careful, right? Because there's also the problem of resolution. We have to pay attention to what we can surmise from things. Like for instance, if you're tracking somebody's phone via GPS and they're inside the geofence at the time that a crime was committed on that corner, you can put them there and maybe make an allegation, but you can't really say they committed the crime for sure. They could have just been there. The signal could have been off, right? So we have to be careful about paying attention to the resolution of what we can assume from our data. But as long as we're not making unwarranted storytelling leaps with the data that's presented to us, and we don't leave a lot of space between data points to make the story twisty, right?
Here's the thing: they're putting literally trillions of dollars into following every damn thing that we do, and they're pretending like
we should point it at them and put it on chain in a single legislative.
No, like Joe said, finish your thought, Joe. They're putting it.
Why is it not on chain? It's like they're spending trillions of dollars. Why is it not on chain? They're already recording it. In the very least, they should have it on chain so that later they can come back and try these people for unconstitutional tracking of me, right?
Right.
They shouldn't. What you're saying is that they shouldn't,
and it should be the other way around.
Right. We shouldn't dismantle the surveillance engine. We should just turn it inward on the government and give it on-chain public veracity.
And by the way, if you were to bring up any ancient figure from, let's say, from ancient Athens, right? If you wanted, or let's say ancient Rome, if you wanted a good republic, these people who have taken these oaths and are supposed to be there to represent us, to be statesmen, to be to lead the country the right direction. Those people should be seen. We should see what the hell they're doing. We should see what meetings they're taking. We should we should see anything we want to see about that to make sure that they're not.
Right, your elected office should come with a body cam you're required to wear.
Yes, like this should be every meeting.
They're trading.
Yep, it's coming. I think it's coming anyway.
Yeah. Look at
Sean,
the term
you didn't say anything.
Trustless.
Hey, Sean, you're on mute.
Look at the term trustless, and that's what blockchain is providing for you. Yep. You don't have to worry about it.
Skullcap is a very good episode. It's like a seminal episode of Star Trek where he
really
he plays the little flute.
Still plays the flute, yeah.
Oh, so good.
That's so cool.
You're using words like should and want, and I think that's the problem. The biggest problem is that human beings have been changed to where they want to validate their own truths and not the truth. I saw interviews. I think it was Alex Stein. He was yelling at Dan Crenshaw, and he was there.
They want to validate it by taking power. That's
the veteran, and he's like, "Oh, what about when you went? There was no weapons of mass destruction. You did that." And did you find many weapons? And there was just like 2 or 3 people like, yeah, we found them. He was like, what? Yeah, we found them. We found them. Because he was saying like, but I mean, eventually, if you were over there and you killed people, if someone is like, hey man, you were duped and you killed people and you were duped and your friends died and it was all a lie. You just a basic, mental defense is going to be, no, it was worth it. No, this was enough what we found. There was a reason. It wasn't just power and oil and, you know what I mean? People try to make sense.
Self-justificatory, that's what you're saying.
People try to make sense of the horrors that they do and they go through. But I don't think they want, that's why there's.
Well, that's okay though, right? It's okay if they do that as long as they don't demand power as the necessary consequence of their imagined experience.
I think people have changed and they're different. I think that we are weirdos now, and the majority of people don't want, because when stuff is exposed and it's like, look at how illegal this is. I mean, we've seen things that are just insane. We saw the governor admit that he put his hand up a woman's shirt, grabbed her boobie, came and that's we would all be arrested. And he said it, he admitted it, and then the police said, "Hey, that's wrong." And then they had a press conference. It's burned in my mind. There were like 10 sheriffs and state police.
It's executive privilege, right?
And he's like, "Arrest is not off the table."
The rest is not off the table.
Why
That's a quote.
And it was just the most black and white stuff. Punched me in the face. And it's like the people don't care. They don't want it. They don't want it. And I think that's what we got to get, which was smart for evil to do. They changed people's minds first. Before they started going on all this stuff.
Wait, what people don't want
God,
that?
I think that's probably okay for most people, for people without power who don't want it, to tell themselves what they want about themselves, right? Like that's a thing we can permit most people to keep. We just can't tolerate it with our leaders and with the people who make decisions or people who have power, right? Like that's the time when you can't afford to let people's egos get in the way of reality.
Yeah. Okay. You go to the next one. Anybody else on this?
Lisa, what's your thought? Blockchain power.
Oh gosh, I'm still on the last one because of what we're going through with in the very community. You know, a lot of community members did this dossier and went through public records, and with the way a lot of this stuff mirrors the debt box case and the abuse of power with the SEC, and so it's all public record. But then they brought attention to it, and I'm like sitting here going like, oh man, I need to talk to some people and get all of that. So they put it on IPFS servers because they were worried about like is it DDoS or DNS attack or DDoS attack or something. If you put stuff on regular websites, you can get attacked. So they put it on IPFS
would be hard to attack like that.
Yeah. But putting it on eternal.report would be even better. Putting it and being able to call out. So like, I can't wait for the whistleblower episode next week. So my head is in the last question and next week. So I apologize.
Eternal should probably serve as an IPFS pinner as well. That'd be a cool thing for it to also
that'd be smart.
So could that be done? Like, could the dossier and those IPFS addresses be captured on eternal?
Oh yeah. Well, and you can recapture the content. You could capture the hash of the content. Like say right now, you can't put a video on Eternal unless you encode it. You could encode it and put it on there, but it'd be big.
Well, if nobody's pinning a thing, it goes away. So like Eternal could potentially provide an anchor for knowledge
that'd be a premium service there.
Yeah,
that'd be premium. Service. I love it. Yeah.
I'd buy that.
Anyway.
I would download an app.
That's so that's where I am. I'm trying to figure out.
Sweet. Okay, I am for.
How ironic. We just mentioned Star Trek, and I put this up last night.
Make it so number one. You know, I never watched this New Generation, right?
Yeah, Next Generation. It was the best.
I've seen
Picard was the best Star Trek captain.
Yeah,
really.
Right no, okay. No.
I know, Sean. I was ribbing you up. I'm sorry, I couldn't help it.
Cisco.
Blockchain is a valuable tool to record history and prevent its deletion by the victors. Picard to Riker. So how do we make it so? How do we do this? I already gave my answer. We need an incentive for people to store it and a place for them to do so. Right. Anyway, who else?
That's my answer. I'm going to say expand Den.social, where it's written to a blockchain, and community notes is incentivized with its behavior network. Incentivized behavior network. I would say make it so with Den.social.
Right on. I agree. Anybody else?
I would say we have to do it fast and then slow. And the fast part is the part where we build sort of a basic, stable, stand-up, decentralized infrastructure stack that you can run everything on from top to bottom, and it can be done unstoppably, right? Like you can't have a Roman storm that the Department of State can go after, because if you do, then these things will get targeted and these things will get taken down when they become inconvenient to power. And that's where we risk the most loss of information right now. Right. So first thing we need to do is have a thing that no matter how inconvenient to power, you can't stop it. You can't erase it. You can't block it. And we're not there yet. We're almost there. But that's, to me, step one. And that has to be done fast because they're catching on quick. Right. They're getting more and more effective at undermining the best projects that push us in that direction as time moves. So if we don't do it soon, we won't be able to do it because they'll find a way to stop it. But once it's online, we can take a deep breath, right? And we can start recording everything methodically.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm going to add that the normie untech girl piece, that it has to be the granny wallet. It has to be easy, or none of this adoption will happen. Like, I know the great technical minds get all excited and geek out and make it complicated to make it wonderful, but it has to be simple. Or it's not going to scale.
Yep.
Agreed.
With the caveat that that if we don't get, if we have to make compromises on that up front in order to get to uncensorable, then we should make those and make sure to come back and address it as soon as we can get to that deep breath point. That would be the only caveat I would say to like trying to find usability and adoption before we have a stack that we can not stand over and it still exists.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you can. Blockchain actually, it's interesting. For all the crap that it gets, that I mean, blockchain actually makes a few things more usable than Web 2, but you have to want to do it, and a lot of Web 3 has not really cared about that.
So I think we do a disservice to grandmas and not remembering that they still fill out those manual check registers like most people never have even heard of.
It has to be it has to be Zoomer proof. You have to be able to do it.
So I think they have more stomach for complexity than young people to a certain degree.
That's true. My mom taught me about blockchain, so
yeah,
there's that.
Yep. Okay. Anything else on that? I'll go to the next one. I will go to the next
is
one.
the last one.
This is the last one.
I think you can. You the big thing, like I said, is that you're keeping the victors, whoever the current victors are, is the main thing. Because if power changes, they can't change the history. They can't, because it's not that hard to change history. We're starting to see.
Yep.
Change history right now is as easy as coming up with a fake story and saying it over and over again.
I think but it's also a good part. Like I said, the losers and the winners. Every camera angle puts it in, and then it can't be changed. So,
yeah. Well, and by the way, it's worth noting, if you were to go and read 1984, and essentially, you can formulate pretty easily blockchain solutions for everything that's going on that is bad. Winston Smith, the lead character in that story, his job was to change history. Right? He would get the history. He would rewrite what it was supposed to be, and he would burn the old version.
Right. The idea is leaving no record behind that there was a change.
Right.
Actively destroying any hint of such record.
And it's so funny because when I read that as a kid in 1984, in fact, that's why I read it in 8th grade. Right. I did a book report on it, and it seems so crazy so far. It's like, that is never going to happen, sci-fi stuff. And now you look at it, and literally, daily on Twitter, I see doublethink.
Jesus.
The regular news. Yep. It's like, it's real.
It's insane.
Crazy.
It is insane.
Who knew that it was a business plan? Who knew
like an instruction manual? Yeah.
Yep. Okay. I am Priam. I submit we're losing the battle of recording our history. History is written by the victors. Centralized systems like AI are sweeping the internet and presenting history as incomplete, inaccurate, and biased. We have the tech to record today and yesterday's events. We have the tech to prevent our history from being corrupted and lost. Today, Google search algorithm spews what they want us to know. They change dictionary words every freaking month. How do we start winning and using blockchain to store and prevent our history from being deleted? How do we stop our history from being lost deep within algorithmic search? We need this so we can prevent society from making the same damn mistakes. Winston Churchill, again, very topical.
Right, and it was
Churchill. Those that fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it. I don't know if you guys have been watching the Churchill history recently. Churchill.
That's such a fabrication.
Anyway,
the histories you can access on Churchill belie a different person entirely. They have whitewashed that man.
The thing about
India's version,
this is what I've been talking about for the whole show. People are different. There's no accountability.
Yeah.
I remember when I was a kid, and ABC News, or they made a fake sport. It was like a sports story, but it was fake, and it was a scandal. And they thought like all of the network, this is network, it was before like major cable and all, was over. No one will ever watch them again. They should shut down, fire Ted Koppel. It's over. It's done. And we went from that to blatant lies and just calling something fake news. Can you go back to the question? I wanted to.
Sure. How do we fix this? We're losing our
like you said, Google. Now Google spews out. They've been caught with their pants down so many times in the past just 2 years. They should not be allowed to exist. They should be done. They should have been broke up. Should have been from monopoly. What they should be charged.
Gmail should be its own company. That's actually good stuff.
There's so many there. When the DNC screwed Bernie over, as soon as the DNC, do you know what they said? Their defense was, we screwed him over. We're a private company, a private organization. We're not a government organization. You can't mess with us. But they literally run the government. Yeah. They run half the government. But they said that. But there has to be. Let's go back to where there's consequences for any institutions when they are being corrupted. They have to be prosecuted for corruption. That's the basic thing. That's the whole problem.
And I don't think you can do this with a gun. I don't think you can point a gun at people and tell them to be honest. Honestly, I don't think we can use prosecutors. I think
but you can shoot them for being dishonest.
Yeah, I don't think that makes anybody do anything. But
they're gonna just shoot all the
lies more carefully to themselves.
Yeah, right? they will just. Right now, if you turn that on, they would actually attack good people, and you know that's the truth, because right now they're not allowed to hang the good people because they're not also allowed to hang the obvious traitors.
Right, exactly. but then a Pavel Durov happens, and all of a sudden you have all the press outlets talking about how Elon Musk needs to be arrested immediately. Right, like we're not far off from them showing up at my place and Joe's place, Lisa's place and Sean's place and IAM's place and your places, and taking you into custody for whatever audacity you have to step out of your place. Right. This is not far from possible. Though I think we can have a lot of hope in history, right? Like if people actually take an active role in learning it, probably the first thing you can do right now is learn what history is available to you. Yep. Right. So step one, step two, though, is to start archiving yourself. Yep. Download and save files. Do it. Like it's necessary. You'd be surprised how much stuff that you save that doesn't get saved anywhere else.
Yep. So now we move on to We move on to memes and current events.
Annette Reddy, good friend at SEC who watches our show. Uh-huh. We love you, by the way. You should come on when this is all over.
I would like to mention something about the Georgia shooting. Tragic, sad. FBI knew about this individual a year ago. Oh, really? Talked to local authorities. They talked to local authorities. Of course, he denied any threats. Father said he had his guns locked up. His teenage son didn't have access to them. All of these things. But the point I want to make, and foremost, is that it's not the gun, it's the mental illness, it's the society. And I'll give you a case in point because I lived it. When I was a teenager going to school, in the high school parking lot, my friends had pickup trucks. Yep. It was very commonplace to have your gun rack hanging behind your head right there in the pickup truck. Mm-hmm. And as teenagers, we forgot to lock our cars or trucks sometimes. And we had our gun racks right there inside the cab of our pickup truck at school. And they were all ranges of hunting rifles.
It was a status thing. You had
school used to.
You
would go to the auto. You had to build them for Christ's sake.
You would go to the auto. You would go to the auto parts store, and up on the. I can remember it like plain as day. At the top rack, almost hanging from the ceiling, was right there where you could choose your gun racks. In wood shop, I had friends that were making gun racks for their pickup trucks in wood shop that was going to go into their truck, and the teachers knew it. My point being, this is a societal issue. It's the degradation. The sanctity of life has been lost. It's not about gun control. It's not about controlling the guns and the weapons. We have to look inward at ourselves and at our society. It is not the gun or the axis of the gun or the axis of the ammo.
That's what I'm saying. Right? It's what I've been saying. It's our societal problems, and people have changed. It's not that we need this or that. We need to change. We need to go back to the way we were. I mean, not only do you not build gun racks in wood shop, there is no more wood shop. That's done.
Right.
There's no more mechanic auto shop. There's no more metal shop.
Wood shop is now a training in how to outsource your wood shop work.
it's and they did it under the guise of money, but it's always just.
My kids still had metal shop. I don't think they had.
Wood and metal shop is an educational course in how to make contacts in China.
Okay. I just remember it's like I grew up in Dodge City, and same thing with the gun racks, and same thing like it was actually a status symbol because all the kids who lived on farms would have cars years before any of the rest of us, right? Because they could drive them around. It was like, oh, you make friends with one of them.
You had a hardship license at 14. Yeah.
Yeah.
They called them farmers' licenses here.
Oh, they called them hardship license in Oklahoma.
I don't trust the FBI. The FBI needs to be disbanded. The FBI knew about this person. The FBI needs to be disbanded. I think maybe it's a setup. They want this to happen to bring about more, division in our and to take away our Second Amendment rights. That's what it's all about. They're going to allow it, just like maybe they allowed the breach on the gap, so allow someone to climb a roof in Pennsylvania and take out a portion of a person's ear. I think
here's an interesting idea.
It wasn't intentional, but it was like laxed on purpose. How's that?
Here's an interesting idea. Does the Second Amendment protect weaponized information? Do disruptively effective memes and words and phrases and images count as weaponry when the government calls it that? Right? Information weapons is a class of weapon in our military now. Why is it that
actually, last week there was a very landmark case on that because the judge ruled that machine guns are legal because they are a gun, and the Second Amendment is for any kind of gun.
Arms, right? Yeah, duh.
The fact that it is a gun, so not words, not weapons, not like knives. It's specifically for guns, which is now going to go to the Supreme Court. We might be able to get machine guns back again. But
sweet. Well, technically, you can get those back with a 3D printed switch that's really cheap and easy.
Well, I mean, you can buy them now, but they cost like 10 to 20 grand for like a basic one. They have to be made before a certain date. So,
or just get a friend with a 3D printer.
A lot of people don't want this to go through because they're making tons of money. People that have old machine guns are making buttloads of money.
Oh, right, Baptists and bootleggers. Right? It's always the coalition.
I would say that if I were in high school and 3D printing was possible, we would be 3D printing guns in our 3D shop class in high school. That's how far we've come.
And if we had an honest education,
it's weird. Nobody's talking about additive manufacturing as the way to train people now. Jesus. They should have 3D.
I remember my favorite coach. No, he was my favorite teacher. My favorite teacher. We were doing, it was history, and we were studying like Native Americans, and he wanted to have a potluck, which was weird. Everybody had to make some kind of food, but he was like telling people, if you can hunt. And I got a rabbit, killed a rabbit, brought in a rabbit, and it was, but that would never happen nowadays. If you look in the private comments, there's a link there.
I think I have it already. Is it this one?
It's go take it. No,
it's not that one.
Take it to CIA.gov.
No,
it's a document. You're talking about the document.
Yeah.
Let
me try to. I'll send this.
Yeah, this sent me. In fact, it was some weird redirect to YouTube.
There you go. That's the one.
Okay. All right.
Oh dear Lord.
Okay, so This is a CIA document. You can go to CIA.gov, type in the case file, and this is real. This is. I'll try. I can just go through it without reading it. But so this is from 1993. What happened in 1993? And this was investigated by KGB. So the KGB investigated this. It was in their files. Then the fall of the Soviet Union happened. The CIA was able to get these case files, and the CIA did an investigation of this case file. So there was a contingent of soldiers doing maneuvers. I think it was around Ukraine. And a flying disc came down and was flying around them, and they were very freaked out. So one of the soldiers had a surface-to-air missile and didn't mean to shoot it, but was freaked out and aiming it, and for defense or whatever. And then anyway, it hit him. It hit the UFO, and the UFO lands, goes down. You can read through this, right? I can read it for you if you want me to actually read it. But
this is crazy.
There is then the Greys come out of the ship, and they go over towards the soldiers. Soldiers are freaking out, but they're not shooting them. They're not doing anything. Everyone's, just tense. Then the Greys come together, start to spin around, and there's a bright light. And there was like 3 or 4 soldiers that were hiding behind like special cover. And they survived. That's how there's eyewitness accounts. There's photographs. Every other soldier's molecular structure had been turned to stone poles. And then aliens left.
They shouldn't have looked back, right? I think that's what happened.
Yeah, so the KGB.
Wait, is there an approved for release stamp on there?
Yeah, approved. It just because it was.
Isn't it weird how they black the dates out too, like at the bottom, like look down where the couple
There's
redactions
something about
are.
March there, right?
May.
Yeah. What's on the other side
March,
of the end signature? Is that like that's probably like the signing key of some specific person or something? Who knows?
So it says the KGB report goes on to say that the remains of the UFO and the petrified soldiers were transferred to a secret scientific research institution in Moscow. Specialists assume that a source of energy that is still unknown to Earthlings instantly changed the structure of the soldiers' living organisms, having transformed it to a substance whose molecular composition is no different from limestone. And then CIA said if the KGB file corresponds to reality, this is.
If it's true, that's another way of saying if it's true.
Remember a year ago when I was in the hospital and the government came out and said, yeah, UFO is real, aliens real.
Yeah.
And it was like, then everybody just forgot about it. This struck me because the guy said before Congress, yes, and this is an extremely menacing thing. Aliens possess such weapons and technology that go beyond all our assumptions. And
I think what's funny is the choice of words here.
Under what circumstances should we ever believe them about this?
I don't know.
Exactly. Why it's interesting they choose the word Earthlings instead of human.
Well, back then,
all the wording is just kind of funny.
Because war game here. Let's war game this. What could this be? What advantage could be obtained by publishing this?
The same, by the way, as all of the anti-gravity patents. Because people point to those, they're real patents from Navy scientists, and with making UFOs and making crazy weapons. And I guarantee to you that there's at least some amount where they want China and Russia and anybody else to spend the money to try to do this thing that we've discovered, right? And that's what it is. It's like, and because they've done that in the past, we know Howard Hughes was involved in one where they were trying to recover treasures on the ocean floor, and so he put tons of money into it. There's a big announcement. He had special ships. It turns out it was all the cover for a military operation to extract a nuclear sub, a Russian sub that had gone down. And yet they said that there were several countries in the world that spent tremendous amount of money to follow what Howard Hughes was doing, because it's like, it's Howard Hughes, right?
Well,
It'd be like if Musk
guys,
does something today, right?
You guys need to check out this documentary that I found and watched on. I think I watched it on Tubi of all places, but the UFO movie they don't want you to see. And you hear that and you think, ooh, how juicy are the real details going to be about the real aliens in this one? But in reality, what it does is it puts up that Tic Tac video and analyzes it and proves how it could just be a complete figment. And does to all those videos that they released and shows how actually this, and this make it very unlikely this is more than an artifact, or that what you're seeing here is what they're saying they're seeing. It makes a lot of sense from a very basic standpoint, and kind of puts the lie to those videos in a way that will make everybody go, holy shit, you fucks. Why did nobody explain this on the news? So I have a strong inclination to disbelieve any publications from the government about aliens.
Me too. Me too.
Did you see that
Brazil? How about Brazil and Elon Musk?
His whole family endorsed Trump.
Whose family?
The vice president nominee. His entire family.
Oh, what is it? What's his name?
Waltz, right?
Waltz, yeah. Waltz. His entire family came together. They took like a family picture.
I keep thinking of him only as Tampon Tim.
Kennedys are mad at RFK for being supporting Trump. Yeah. So I had to go the other way.
Tit for tat. Right?
When you mentioned that, was Pollock, just the artist. The CIA spent like millions of dollars on all this weird, stupid art, crazy shit, just to mess with the Russians. They were like, "Why?" And then Americans,
and launder money. Never forget.
Then the Americans, rich people were like, "Oh, you just don't understand it." No, it was really actually shit, and you bought it.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, like literally, they were buying art. With U.S. endowments to the arts that were people doing things like enema bags sprayed onto canvas being mounted on walls, and like religious symbols soaked in urine and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like that's stuff that we bought with U.S. tax dollars. So you can't really credit them with much taste.
Here's it is offensive.
I love it.
Maybe, but this is a meme that is topical. It's exactly what we were talking about. And a very plausible future. Nobody's gonna say anything, but yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
You could call it right now. That's what's gonna happen.
I think we're gonna split before
already happening.
I think we're gonna split before then.
Oh yeah,
if we survive that long.
Yeah.
If there isn't a World War III.
Yeah, there's going to be.
World War III is already underway. It's just an information war, and there's no distinction between military and civilian.
We've been in a Cold War for a long time. We call it culture war. You can call it whatever. We've been in a Cold War for a while.
But it's a Cold World with the globalists, I guess, too. I mean, there's multiple fronts here in this war, right?
Oh, I will say, can I bring up? I think this might be the best meme in the past week. All right, that I'm about to show here, and then hopefully it's not offensive. But this one, I'm surprised.
That's a lot of hype, man.
Yes. When I first showed this to people, a lot of people didn't get it right away. But even the write up on it, they must really hate that their prime ministers have to come to the U.S., don a cowboy hat, and rub the largest phallic symbol.
Like if you wanted to make this generate from an image generator, you could probably type an old man in a posh suit wearing a cowboy hat rubbing a giant phallus.
No, hold on.
Interesting shadow.
No, it's the Wailing Wall versus the Washington Monument.
Yes, that's what it is.
Yeah,
it's the opposite. Because they have the other memes where like, oh, isn't it horrible that they have to put on this hat and go to some Incan to what's the name of the village and pledge their allegiance, or isn't it horrible that the Chinese make all of our presidents go to the Great Wall? and pray for the greatness of China. And they're just showing the Wailing Wall with every single one of our freaking presidents bending the knee. And this is the opposite. And I'm just surprised it took this long for somebody to do it.
Doesn't the shadow look like Pepe with Donald's hair?
Yeah,
I think it looks kind of like an Incredibles animation.
I think it looks
like it has that kind of 50s.
Looks like a Simpsons
with a flip back hair kind of style.
Anyway, I saw that and I was like, that was so freaking funny to have Netanyahu at the Washington Monument in a cowboy hat, no less. It's like, okay, you have to put on our hat now. He's like, okay, if they at least traded, I would at least be okay. We're trading bending the knee. You bend your knee, we'll bend our knee. But no, it only happens one way. So.
And anyway, thank G-Dub for that little piece of flair becoming a permanent feature of American federal power.
We're running out of time. I really would like to talk about Brazil and X.
Brazil,
any comments, thoughts?
It's always a lot of. I think there's a lot.
It's a very good point to bring up.
Pumped up stuff about it. I don't know. Whatever.
Well, I mean, no. This country literally shut down one of the United States social media platforms after freezing the assets of 2 U.S. companies completely unrelated in any other way except for the founder. There was a time when this would have been treated as an act of war.
Yeah. But see, it matches the current administration, right? So they're not going to push back with Brazil. They're in on it, as Mike Binns calls it. They're in on it.
It just goes to show that our borders are not just weak physically. Our borders are also weak, from a sense of national pride with respect to our global presence, right? Like they're not. They are literally just not defending the United States' intellectual territory by refusing to see this as anything other than an act of state aggression against our state.
I thought y'all were talking about the NFL game going on in Brazil this week.
This coincides, of course, with them tyrannizing their own people. If anything we claimed we were for when we went into Ukraine or Iraq or Afghanistan were actually true, we'd be in Brazil right now. It just puts the lie to every single one of our pieces of propaganda.
What's the one? I'm going to find it. There's a brilliant meme. I will continue on, and I will find this meme, and then we can close out if you want.
So we switched from importing or exporting freedom to importing foreign tyranny, essentially.
I invaded Iraq.
I invaded Iraq because they have nuclear. It might have nuclear. Why not North Korea? Are you crazy? They have nuclear. It's so freaking funny. It's brilliant. Anyway, okay. So
I think on the Aurora, Colorado thing, I think it's I don't fully get it. I believed it when it happened, days ago. But there's thousands of Hell's Angels. They're driving. So I said, well, we'll find out in like 24, 48 hours.
Yeah, that was an old video.
All fake. But
also, it's weird to be afraid of.
There were some people going there, and there was this. But it was like a normal police thing that happened. But Lisa had this TikTok, and we shared it. Lisa, played it on our show. It did pump people up, and I think it was a psyop just to see who the troublemakers will be, who will be the first to stand up. And because this dude was, we could play it, it's a couple minutes, but this guy was like, I'm a veteran. When all the veterans see what happens, we're all ready. I got an AK. I got an AR-15 with 100 drum mag. And
but he also said he was going to shoot a camel, which that's not anybody from Venezuela.
He said, I can shoot.
It sounds like a schizophrenic episode.
He said, I can shoot a camel from like 200 yards open.
It was
he was just bragging about his ability, but he was so excited. Like all of us were like,
a benchmark for shooting that was based on camels.
Tired of waiting.
Yeah, it was other video taken out of context to be used.
Okay,
super weird. Yeah. Man. I was gonna brag about my shooting ability. I probably wouldn't use the metric of camel shooting.
Okay, William, what's going on this week? What should people watch for?
I'm gonna just encourage people to go to Den.social, where blockchain works and where your information can be stored and eternalized. How's that? And also check out eternal.report.
Right on.
Lisa.
Check out my channel, Litecoin Lisa, on YouTube. I do pretty much a daily show around 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. And a lot of these guys are on with me, and we have great conversations, talk about alternative ways to find freedom in this corrupt society and crashing world. So,
very good.
Sean, what's next with you?
Sean.
Watch my channel. Me and Lisa have a show every Tuesday. First half's on her show or channel, second half's on mine. It's usually a pretty good show, actually. I think it's all right, man.
Right.
I'm trying to get some big interviews. I want to move more into the political realm of crypto and away from the, just what's going on in crypto, like some senators and stuff like that. I had an interview with Primetime 99 Alex Stein, but he canceled on me for Friday, so I'm gonna try to reschedule that to get him on.
Cool. Awesome.
Sean, if you want, I might be able to get Roman Storm for you if you want to talk to him.
Yeah, I want to make some content and talk to some people and get some conversations going.
Right on.
Cool.
Right on. All right, Greg.
So real quick, everybody should be especially closely attentive to Brazil over the 7th, because that's their Independence Day, and there are a number of independent journalists from the United States, including Mike Schellenberger, going there physically to support freedom of speech in Brazil. And so there's a chance these guys are going to get arrested. There's a chance that they're going to suffer a lot worse. And the more people paying attention, the less likely they'll be harmed. So pay close attention there, and also don't forget about our good friend Roman Storm, whose case is coming up in December. His defense is our defense when it comes to censorship in this country. So protect the right to have tools to privacy, and do so by going to We Want Justice DAO and donating.
Right on. For me, join us today on X, as we have the second Dracaria space. We're going to go over how the algorithmic supply and the fees work for spawning. Should be super interesting, and we'll give away another gateway key, the only way you can get to spawn in the first season. So join us as soon as you can, and that's it. See you guys later. Talk soon.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and secret proceedings. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed.